Well, welcome everybody to our webinar, The Nudge Method. In the next 30 minutes, I want to share with you what I have learned about leveraging Facebook's native machine learning capabilities to create predictably profitable campaigns. The reason why we are doing this is because the meta ads landscape has really changed. The things that were working even like 4 years ago are no longer working today. That's primarily due to four different technological and industry shifts that have happened. A lot of people started adopting Meta, especially retailers, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and the stuff that was working before just isn't working anymore. But the good news is Meta has released a lot of native machine learning capabilities that helps you find the right audiences and then engage them. And it also helps you set up the correct objectives and scale those. So we'll be able to talk through those today. My name is Leiden. I have been doing market research now for over 12 years, and I am joined here by Jimmy Chase.
Hi, everyone.
Cool. So I am going to be walking you guys through the steps for the nudge method in this webinar. In the end, I'm going to share with you how the personalized segmentation can accelerate the returns that you get on your ad campaigns. I want this to be an interactive webinar, so you'll see a little Q&A at the bottom there. That Q&A button, you can add stuff to it, as well as the chat. I see some people are in the chat. Jimmy will be answering that as we go, and then we'll also have time for a Q&A in the end as well. So just a little bit of background on Spatial. So we do segmentation, consumer segmentation for retail brands. And this all started for us in 2015 when I was doing a research trip for a restaurant called Zaxby's, and we were using their segmentation that was primarily demographic to identify the right location to open up their restaurant in Nashville. And unfortunately, when I got to that location as a researcher, the people that we expected were a demographic fit, but the people acted totally different than the ideal Zaxby's customer, which really kind of made my research not particularly useful, as well as the area changed dramatically. It went through a serious period of gentrification and was absolutely crime ridden. And to make matters worse, the last day of my research trip, I ended up getting held up by gunpoint. Now, obviously, I came out okay, but two things as I reflected back on that moment stuck with me. Number one, is people are much more than their demographics, and there wasn't really a solution that was capturing people's behavior. The second thing that occurred to me is that the distance between insights from segmentation to actually putting that into action was very wide, and there was no software that was bridging that gap. And that's why we created the personalized segmentation. It's a segmentation of US households. We segment people mainly by their behavior on social media and their retail visitation, as well as their demographics. And then we help companies rank, reach, and resonate with their best customers. And now we are working with over 750 retail brands. And a lot of what I want to be sharing with you guys today is based on things that I have learned from the retailers that are using our solution and spending millions of dollars in meta ads, as well as a lot of personal research that I've done in investing in learning some best practices on Facebook and Meta through different types of courses. So I'll take you through an agenda today. The first thing that we're going to be talking about with the nudge method is the 4 horsemen of change. What has changed so dramatically about the Meta ads platform that the things that used to work no longer work anymore? And then I want to walk you through 3 hot principles for using the native technologies within Meta to make sure that your ads are getting high engagement and leveraging the machine learning algorithms that Meta has. And then I will walk you through the nudge method, which is a very tactical 5-step process for leveraging each one of those native machine learning features. And at the end, I want to share with you how the Persona Live segmentation can help you identify the right audiences and create resonant messages with them. Okay, what's the problem here? Just to put it short, the Facebook of 2004 is just less profitable for most companies than it was 4, 5, 10 years ago. Here's some statistics about this. On average, based on search logistics data, cost per click has gone up 3x on campaigns. And then people and audiences are fatiguing twice as fast on campaigns as they used to, which means you have to come up with a lot more creative. If you guys are doing meta ads on this webinar, you've probably feel this pain. There's a lot of man hours involved in that. But the last statistic I think is the absolutely the most interesting because it has to do with the native machine learning capabilities. The ROAS delta from the top performing campaigns, so the top 25%, compared to the bottom 25%, is 10x. The people in the top 25% are getting 10x the results of the people in the bottom 25%. Why is that? It's because Facebook has really moved into this machine learning world, and the more data they have on the conversions than the engaging components of your ad, the more those ads will win. And I'll explain why that is in a second. So, why is this all going on? It's because of two industry shifts that have happened and two technological shifts. So, I'm going to demystify this for you. I call it the four horsemen. The first one and the most obvious one that a lot of people know about that created the beginning of this entire avalanche was Apple's iOS app tracking transparency. So in 2020, with the release of 14.5, you had to by default say, yes, Facebook, you can track me across my other apps and other things I'm doing. And then 96% of users obviously said no to that. And what happens is behavior trackability for Facebook went way down, and that degraded their interest-based audiences. So if you're a pet brand and used to use pets as an interest-based audience, that audience isn't working quite as well as it used to. Number two, and this is kind of a technological shift as well as an industry shift, is the TikTokification of advertising and the rise in short-term video content. After TikTok did this and everybody started copying them, they found that was a really good way to engage people and keep them on the platform. But that changed the substrate of the material that Facebook was working with to identify those right audiences. And so things just really shifted because fundamentally people were interacting with social media differently. The third thing that has happened is advancements in machine learning. Meta is a lot better at finding signal in audiences now, and it doesn't need as much specific interest to get that performance. They can use broad audiences and still find signal within those audiences. And because of the change in interest-based audiences, app tracking, Meta has made a huge focus on advancements in machine learning. And then the lastly, and this may be why audiences are fatiguing more, there's been a huge increase in ad inventory. Specifically, there's a big increase in 2023. Theoretically, you would think, okay, our cost per click is going to go down because there's a lot more inventory going on there. But in reality, what has actually happened is that the noise has went way up, and there's just a lot more ads in your Facebook feed now. And so people are getting sensitive to those ads and not clicking on them unless that is engaging to those particular people. So how do we deal with this new world now that we know some of the issues that are happening in it? The number one thing that you can do is prioritize engagement. So this has to do with Facebook's business model. Facebook's business model is to keep you on the platform. So our eyeballs, our inventory, and anything that causes us to disengage with the platform and go away from the platform is going to get demoted by this. And just as an example, if you have your phone nearby, go ahead and open up your Instagram app and scroll down to the first sponsored ad that you see, and you're going to notice something about the sponsor ad. The chances are is that sponsored ad probably either has a lot of likes, a lot of comments, or there's a lot of people that are following that particular company. Why is that? Because Facebook has deemed that an engagement ad. They've aligned it to you because I hope that it will engage you, and that has popped it up to the top of the scroll. The people that are at the top of the scroll are paying significantly less in the auction than the people that are all the way down to the bottom of a 15-minute doom scroll, because they're going to deprioritize those ads. So we need to create engaging ads to get to the top of the scroll. Now, don't let that freak you out, because a lot of people are like, oh, engaging ads, I got to talk to my agency and got to work on this. The ads that you already have, there exists a perfect and prime audience for those ads. You just need to get it to those people as fast as possible. Okay, and that brings us to the second, which is find the right audiences fast. So don't forget that Facebook is an ads auction. As soon as you hit publish on that ad, Facebook is looking for people that are doing the action that you intended. So if you asked Facebook to find you leads and people are doing that in high quantities, they're going to deem that an engaging ad. If you ask for sales conversion, they're going to find people. They're going to find people that are going to do that. They're looking for that prime audience that is going to engage in your ad. So if you go through the learning phase and your ad is not found an engaging audience, it's going to be highly demoted and essentially taxed for that. So we need to give your ad the best shot at winning with the right people. And the best way to do that is to nudge your ad in the right direction to those people, which is the nudge method. So think about this. If you maybe you're I'm recently doing this, I'm training my daughter how to ride a bike. We're not quite there yet. Think about when you're riding a bike, are you going to be more stable if you are just sitting still, or if you give someone a push, if you give someone a nudge in the right direction? So that's what we want to do. We want to leverage machine learning by starting with momentum rather than cold start. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to choose a broad audience, and then we're going to align our offer with that specific broad audience. And I will walk you through that in the nudge method. So it's a 5-step method. And this is going to be sort of the bulk of our time here. This is the meat of the presentation. So this is the nudge method at a glance. There's 5 steps. Each one of these 5 steps leverages a different component of the machine learning algorithm in Meta. And the number one is objective. And I know you guys mentioned at the beginning that setting up the right objectives was of interest to you guys. So I'll spend a little bit more time here than I normally would. So you have a number of objectives that you can do. And I can just tell you right now, I know a lot of you either are retailers or work with retailers. If you are a retailer, you primarily want to do sales or you want to do leads. So you want to do sales if that conversion event happens on your website and you want to connect the Meta pixel in there so that Meta can know, all right, this person actually converted, find more people that look like the person that converted. Or if you're a service business and that conversion doesn't happen on your website, but you need to get that lead, so like maybe you're a lawn mowing business, for example, and that conversion happens elsewhere, then you want to do leads. A lot of people will choose like traffic, let's just get my brand out there, or engagement, which besides the name, it's not actually probably what you think. It's just getting comments on your ad doesn't really drive conversions. The only other thing that I would see that makes a lot of sense for a retailer, maybe awareness, if you are about to do a grand opening for a new location and you can't make that conversion, but you just need to have awareness for that moment and then change to conversions or leads if you can. So the first thing is you got to set that up right. So usually sales with a pixel or leads. And we're going to send something out at the end of this that will walk you through each one of these things, each one of these 6 different options here, and the 4 or 5 different reasons why you would do each. So that will come to you guys in an email. Okay, number 2 is setting up Advantage Plus budget at the campaign level. So what this will do is we're going to be using 2 or 3 ad sets. This is going to intelligently distribute your cash across these ad sets as the information comes in. So if ad set number 1 is doing better, it's going to distribute more cash to ad set number 1, for example. And then number 3 is audience suggestions. So this is the hinge of the entire process, and this is how we create momentum in the algorithm and speed up that learning phase and get our offers to an engaged audience. And so what we want to do is we want to start with a broad audience, but we want to give that broad audience in a general direction. So a good example of this is if you have an offer and you have an image in that ad of a female, you might want to use males and females as your broad audiences, 2 broad audiences. You could also do demographic audiences, a younger audience, a family's audience, or an older audience. These are still broad audiences, but we want to map our offer to the audience so that we can speed up that learning capability. And just, we already know this. You guys have all seen it. If people see people that look like them, they're more likely to click than if it is somebody that doesn't look like them. But the important thing here is we want to choose this as an audience suggestion. So we don't want a constraint on this, because what Meta will do with an audience suggestion is it will look within the broad audience, find a pattern in that broad audience. This is a little black boxy on how they do it, but then they will take that pattern out and then begin looking outside of your audiences. And you're going to get a lower cost per click because we have a lot more inventory that we can reach when we do this. Number 4 is you need to map your ads to this. I kind of already mentioned this, but if it's young folks, we want to map our ads to the young folks ad set. If it's older people, map it to the older people ad set. Some people ask me, how many ad sets do we have? Facebook recommends to do no more than 6. I recommend to do 2 or 3 at most. This really depends on your budget because remember, we need as many at bats as we can get. And then lastly, scaling this. So some people get really excited when they have an audience that works really well and dump a bunch of money into it. And that adds a bunch of noise into the algorithm. We need to scale this very slowly so it can consistently find the right prime audience for us and we don't add noise. So I like even 1%, 3 or 5% week over week so we can build on that momentum. Okay, and I'm actually going to walk you guys through a step-by-step tutorial. So you're going to see me right now do this on Ads Manager. Okay, so let's start with step number 1. So we want to create a campaign. In this case, I am going to choose a sales campaign, and we want to choose manual sales campaign for this. So we are now at the top level of our 3 levels of campaigns here, and we're going to give this a name. So I want to give this a garden center advertising campaign name. And then this is step number 2. So we just chose our objective. In this case, we want to do an Advantage Plus campaign budget. So that's step number 2. We're distributing our cash correctly between those, and we can hit next. Now we're at the ad set level. And remember, we want to map our correct offer to the right audience. So in this case, we're going to choose a younger audience. We'll just call them singles. And then we're going to do also an ad set, and we'll show you just in a second. That will be families. And then this is the critical moment. So this is step number 3 is we want to do an Advantage Plus audience. And then we want to give it that general direction. So if you do the male or female thing, you can do gender, male or female. You can do interest targeting here. You might find that it works for you as an audience suggestion. I think demographics tend to work a lot easier, and your ad teams are going to be able to visualize the demographics a little bit easier than specific interest. Okay, so I'm going to hit age, and we're going to do, in this case, 18 to 30. So let's bring that down a little bit. And then we hit next, and then we're at the ad level. Now at the ad level, you can run 2 or 3 ads. Again, you don't want to add too many here, but we're going to change the imagery for this particular one. We're going to add media, add an image. And in this case, we're going to do our creative that's designed for young folks. And hit next. Okay, we got that, and we need to name it correctly. And then I didn't mention this, but I like to use a greatest hit ad as well. So I'm just going to do a quick duplicate here, and then I'm going to put greatest hit. What is a greatest hit? Remember, I told you your ads already have the right audience. So I'm just going to put a previous running ad that has performed well here and see how each one of these audiences responds to that ad. So this is not personalized at all. And then I'm just going to add media here, add an image. We're going to put our greatest hit ad. This is an ad that has performed well in the past with this garden center. I'm going to hit next. And then we got our first audience set up. And now all we need to do to get our second audience is do a quick duplicate of that ad set. And then we hit our copy here. We're going to hit our older audience. Let's call it families. We want to do Advantage Plus audience, which we already have preset. And then we're going to do 25, 40 here, more in that family range. And I should mention, if you're doing a regional campaign, you do need to set hard constraints on that region. And then we need to get in here to the personalized ad. And then we just want to change that image to an image of families here. Gonna hit next. And there we go. We got kids in that ad. So now we've connected our offer with our audience so we can speed up that learning phase and then allow Facebook to then go find that prime audience. And that is the 5-step process. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very simple, but very effective. And we've seen a number of our clients utilize this. I like V. It's a a health agency, and they work with a lot of different healthcare providers, but they have an arm that works specifically with gyms, and they use this process to lower their cost per acquisition by 50% for a global fitness franchise. And they also work with a wellness organization, and they had 75% lift in membership while again lowering CPA by 53%. Why is their CPA so low? Because they found the right engaged audiences by using a similar method. Okay, so just to recap that there, number one, prioritize engagement. We want to get our ads to the top of the scroll. How do we do that? We need to find those audiences fast, cut down our learning phase by connecting the right offer to the right audience. Number three, the way that we do that is nudge the algorithm by using suggested audiences and mapping those two things. And so that is the nudge method. Like I mentioned to you guys, we're going to be sending out after this a very detailed, more detailed than what I can get into the webinar, ways to do this. The focus is there's a lot more detail, especially on choosing the right objective. But this might bring up a few questions for you. One is, how do I make sure that I choose the right audience here? Two is, how do I become inspired to make the right personalized offer to that audience? And three, how do I determine even the value of that audience? Because just because I'm getting them to convert doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be a valuable customer to me. I'm going to show you how to use the Persona Live segmentation platform, which is a full stack segmentation, to help you do that. Okay, so this is the Persona Live segmentation. It's a segmentation of US households. And like I mentioned, we segment every household based on three factors, behavior being a big part of it. Number one, social media. Number two, where their retail devices go. So they go into high end retail, low end retail. And number three is their individual demographic information. And this is pretty cool because it makes a segmentation that's more specifically statistically strong because it's capturing the behavioral component, but also it's qualitatively pretty interesting because you can see what these people are talking about on social media right now. You can see the top retail they go to. These people are going to every 3 times as much as the average person. Top restaurants, websites, channel preferences. You can see the geography where they live. So if you're thinking about, okay, how do I create ads that will inspire a specific audience? We're learning so much about these people by what their social media says about them, about where they're visiting and retail, and about their demographics, so we can create those inspired content. We've got really blowing out where that device goes, the brands that they follow on social media, channels. I know some of you are probably using programmatic, so this is a great place to choose those media placements, the influencers or people that they follow. And then finally, an inspirational page just for your designers to personalize your efforts towards these people that contains imagery, the key traits of that segment, their top interest, the brands they follow, and campaigns that performed well. But how do you find out your customer segment or the customer segment for the brands that you work with? Like I said, we want to take the time from insight on segmentation to activation and cut it down, ideally in less than 30 minutes. I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's say you have a CRM file that might look like this. So we're going to use an example outdoor goods retailer. It might have a customer ID, a first name, a last name, a postal address, um, their first purchase date, last purchase date, their lifetime value, and what they bought. So this would be an example customer list. How do we find the segments within this customer list? We make this really easy. So all you got to do is hit new append, go to that customer list, and then hit next. And I can actually drop that customer list as is, as a CSV right into that. I actually have that over here, so I'll drop it in there. And what will happen is it will map all my columns. So it says, okay, this is the customer ID. It's a first name, last name here. And then I can include things like, all right, lifetime value. I want to know the value of each one of these audiences. Include things like, did they buy the climbing gear? Did they buy the hiking gear? So we'll know by segment how much of these they bought. And then we can push that on through. Now, I've already done that, so I can go and analyze that list with you guys by going to step 2 is analyze. And then I can go to that example outdoor goods retailer. And I did this a while ago. Usually takes 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the size of your list. But we can see here with that particular list that I uploaded, 8,868 people match this ultra wealthy family segment. So now we can jump into that and get personalized information for that segment. We would probably, for our young professionals, for example, we might personalize things very different because these people are interested in totally different things for this outdoor goods retailer than the ultra wealthy families. We can not only see the percentage of people that bought, but we can also look at it by customer lifetime value. So we see that if we can convert an educator urbanite, they spend $204 on average versus a sunset boomer spending $192 on average. So depending on how many of those people that are in the market, which we can see, by the way, not a lot of educator urbanites, only 19,000, that might be a good segment or not a good segment to focus on. We can see this as well at the product level, but then you can get your basic demographics too. So the age ranges of our customers, income ranges of our customers. Are they married? Do they have kids? What's their gender, et cetera? And the most powerful part of this is when you're ready to activate those families, you can send those families directly over to Meta. So let's say I want to hit my young professionals as well as these top three. I can confirm and send. I'm pushing that over right now. And then I can say, okay, I'm going to target these people on Meta. Or you can target them on Meta and direct mail at the same time. Or if you're using programmatic, you can do that as well. Now, I know some of you don't have customer data to do that with. In that case, you can also draw a polygon around their location and look at the devices that are visiting. So I've got a Patagonia address pulled up here in Baltimore. So I can zoom into Baltimore, draw a polygon around that, and I can get for that specific location, I can hit it on analyze. What are the segments that are visiting that specific location? So this is my Baltimore, Patagonia, which is visited by primarily young professionals. And then our Patagonia on Pearl Street in Denver here is visited primarily by ultra wealthy families. So we can change regionally our campaigns based on who's visiting our stores, even if we don't have customer data. And that's the promise to use. We just went from, hey, I know nothing about my customers, to I have a fully ranked customer segmentation that I can then personalize and resonate with those audiences and then reach them across multiple channels. As we finish up here, just give you an example of a customer that did this and the results. Sequest, I love this testimonial. Got a spot close to my heart because of the end here. But Sequest is a aquarium, 14 different locations, and they reasonably assumed that their top customer is moms. But when they uploaded their ticket sales, what they learned is that over 1/3 of their customers were actually young professionals that were singles. So they had an idea for an offer. Their offer was Sequest Duo, which is a date night package. And they launched a personalized campaign in all 14 of their locations to young professionals, that specific segment in those locations. And it became their number one selling package overnight. And they had record visitation across all 14 locations. And this is why I love this one so much. There was a new customer segment that they did not expect to come because dad saw this and thought, I want to take my daughter on a date night, which I thought was really cool. And a lot of retailers, a lot of agencies have had similar success stories. And this is basic stuff is they didn't know their customers and now they know their customers. And that gives you a whole lot of power. So just to recap that, you can rank and target the best audiences on Meta. You can resonate with those people by mapping those personalized offers. And finally, you can reach those folks across multiple ad platforms, not just Meta. Okay, so I want to leave you guys with an offer before we go into Q&A. Love to see we got a lot of questions down there. So the first 3 demos that we do, I want to offer this for jumping in quick. 3 strategy sessions. So you'll get 3 one-hour strategy sessions with us, and I'll offer a 3-month paid trial, and then a swipe file that will contain 35 growth strategies that you can use for retailers specifically. And if you want to get that offer, all you got to do is go to spatial.ai/schedule demo, and I'll just show you where that is. and hit schedule demo right here. And I'd love to talk to you guys. Um, let's go through this. Jimmy, what questions do we have here?
Yeah, we got one from Catherine. She was asking about the polygon, drawing a polygon around location. We went a little fast there as a tutorial on that. And I believe we do have, we have a set of tutorials on the platform. So, Catherine, I can personally go and send you that via email. But Lyden, if you also wanted to just explain or elaborate on that more for her.
Sure, yeah. What's happening here, Catherine, is any address you put in here, when you draw a box around that location, and this obviously works if it's singular level, right? Multi-level is going to be really hard for this. But you can draw a polygon around that. So I can do a little square. That's a little Patagonia. And when we hit next, what we are getting is these mobile devices that have walked into that four corners that we created in a time period. So we don't know what they bought. All we know is that those folks are walking in the door, and we see that it correlates really nicely with if you do the actual visitation versus the customer data.
Cool. Any other questions, guys? Now's your time to submit them. We'll wait for a couple seconds here if you have them. Otherwise, if you have ones you want to discuss off the webinar, feel free to email me. I'll throw my email here in the chat for you guys.
So you got Jacqueline. Jacqueline, you raised your hand. Would you mind? You got it. Sounds like you got a question. If you wouldn't mind putting it in the chat here. I don't know, maybe Jacqueline, maybe you just raised your hand on accident, but I see you. I'm raising. Okay, sweet. Jacqueline, yeah, if you're interested in booking a demo, go ahead and go to Spatial.ai and go ahead and book that demo. That's awesome. Cool.
Sweet.
Rock and roll, y'all. Well, any other questions? Cool.
That's it that I'm seeing.
I love spending the time with you guys. I'm excited for you all because I've seen so much how leveraging machine learning on Facebook has really helped. There's a lot of confusion going on around this. This has really worked well for our clients. We're going to follow up with an email to you guys with that 5-step method, giving you additional details. And feel free to email us if you have any other questions or if you just want to talk about success stories.